It's 11:11. Make a wish.
Welcome to Hacking Hypermobility Podcast.
I'm Luna.
And I'm Shelli.
And we're two bendy mamas.
Hacking Hypermobility.
Hi, welcome back to Zebra News on the Hacking Hypermobility Podcast. I'm Luna, and today we're diving into an exciting new study that not only explains why so many hypermobile folks experience heightened anxiety, but also sheds light on why we're so often dismissed in medical settings. This groundbreaking research was led by Dr. Jessica Eccles and published in the British Journal of Psychiatry. It confirms a strong neurological link between joint hypermobility and anxiety. So this article was published on February 10th, 2025, and is titled Neural Processes Linking Joint Hypermobility and Anxiety, Key Roles for the Amygdala and Insular Cortex. But before anyone dares to say, see, it's all in your head, let me be clear, this study reinforces that hypermobility is a real physical condition with complex neurological and physiological causes, not a product of overactive imagination or anxiety disorders. Some key findings from the study include, first, the hyperactive threat response. So the amygdala is our brain's fear processing center and is more active in hypermobile individuals. This means we might be more sensitive to things like stress, threats, and even the experience of pain itself. Heightened bodily awareness. So the insular cortex, which helps interpret internal bodily sensations, is also overactive. This could explain why so many of us experience symptoms like palpitations, dizziness, or pain, to name a few, even more intensely, and why dismissing these sensations as just anxiety is both inaccurate and harmful. 4 times higher anxiety risk. People with hypermobility are 4 times more likely to experience anxiety than the general population. Not because we're inherently more anxious, but because our nervous systems are literally wired differently. Next, there's a stronger brain connectivity in self-perception areas. So increased communication between the amygdala and the precuneus, which is linked to self-awareness, suggests that us bendy baddies may process fear and bodily sensations in a way that makes them feel more overwhelming and harder to ignore. How this relates to medical gaslighting and trauma. If you have ever been told it's just anxiety, you're too sensitive, or worse, maybe it's all in your head, this study's for you. So for years, hypermobile patients, especially those with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome and hypermobility spectrum disorder, have faced systemic medical gaslighting. We report chronic pain, dysautonomia, digestive issues, and other symptoms that don't fit neatly into a single diagnostic box. And because hypermobility is still under-researched and underrepresented, doctors often default to a psychiatric explanation, even when there's clear physical evidence of our condition. This study explains why so many of us seem more anxious to our doctors. Our heightened bodily awareness and hyperactive threat response can make us appear distressed, when in reality we are accurately perceiving high levels of pain, instability, and other physical dysfunctions in our bodies. When the medical system doesn't understand these neurological differences, it leads to delayed diagnoses. Many of us wait years, even decades, to be taken seriously. Dismissive treatment. Symptoms are often blamed on anxiety, depression, instead of being investigated properly. And eventually medical PTSD. Repeated dismissal makes us afraid to seek care, worsening both physical and mental health outcomes. Breaking the cycle why this study matters. Dr. Eccles' research is a step forward in changing this narrative. It provides scientific validation that hypermobile people experience anxiety and bodily sensations differently due to their brain structure and function, not because we're making it up. Her hope is that this research leads to personalized treatments, ones that acknowledge both the physical and neurological aspects of hypermobility. It's not just our joints, but if the medical community takes this seriously, we could see better medical training so doctors can recognize the brain-body connection without dismissing the complexity of our symptoms, more effective treatments, addressing anxiety and physical symptoms together holistically. Less medical gaslighting, because now we have science to back up our lived experiences. This study is a big deal for our bendy baddies. It's not just about understanding anxiety, it's about reclaiming our medical narratives, proving and demanding better care, proving once and for all that our symptoms are real, they are not in our heads, our bobbleheads. Do you want to dive into the research a little more? Check it out. I'll put it on our website, hackinghypermobility.com. That's it today for Zebra News. Thanks so much for joining us. Stay informed and keep fighting for the care you deserve. See you next time.
Okay, so here's my question.
Yes, here's my answer.
I feel really good.
Excellent.
I've been doing stuff. The only thing I'm having to notice that I'm having to do is that when I am back to standing, because I'm so muscle memory into on my left, I have to remind myself
That you can stand.
that I can. But when I'm doing this and I'm wearing posture correcting clothing, this doesn't hurt.
Excellent.
I struggle to lean back a little bit because of the stretching,
Right.
but I think that's just part of the healing.
Totally.
Is this a honeymoon period? Is this gonna I'm scared. I feel so good. I'm did this actually work?
I think. Do I think it's gonna be perfect the whole way? No.
Right.
But do I think we're gonna create a bunch of issues because we feel good now? No. I don't think that either.
Okay.
So I wouldn't call it a honeymoon phase.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I also wouldn't say that it's gonna be this great the whole time.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. That's fair.
Welcome back to Let Hope I'm Alive. This week is different than what I had planned because, as I mentioned in the second episode, B, Bottoms Up, I'm very stimuli driven. And this week, I have a lot of stimuli. So I've decided to do this week's theme to be D. D is for dysplasia. Dysplasia, it's rooted in Greek. Greek? Yes. And anyway, the whole reason why I'm going through the alphabet here is because last year, or 2 years ago now, I did an A to Z series, the ADHD alphabet, and I just talked about different things people might not know about that relate to neurodivergence, and I went through the alphabet. And so because I need some type of stimulus in order to be creative, when it came to this season, I opted to use the alphabet theme and kind of refer back to the letters that I had used for the ADHD alphabet, but also the ones that work well along with this story, but then where they don't, I'm going to add in new ones. So while dysfunction, executive would work for this week, I'm going to go ahead and switch it up to dysplasia. Now, next episode that's focused on a letter is going to be E. And right now I'm planning for it to be executive dysfunction, but it might change based on whatever happens then, because that's just how I roll. Now, hip dysplasia, what is it? Well, hip dysplasia is an abnormality in the hip joint, and it's where the socket portion doesn't fully cover the ball portion, like this. What that causes is an increased risk for you to dislocate your hips. In fact, my little sister was born with one of her hips dislocated. And I don't remember which one because I was 4 and I didn't really care because I was expecting a brother. I'm mostly over that now. But she had to wear a hip brace for many months. They would carry her around by it. So complications of having this issue is arthritis and low back pain, both of which I suffer from. And I'm just still super hypermobile everywhere. When I was diagnosed by Johns Hopkins in 2021, took my history, they ran through a diagnostic checklist, which I met the criteria for a clinical diagnosis of HEDS. They also ran an in vitro genetic connective tissue panel because they were concerned I might have some variant of the vascular form of Ehlers-Danlos because of my grandmother's history. But that came back negative. It didn't even, on their specific test, I didn't have anything that they thought was wonky, so they diagnosed me with HEDS. I accepted that. I mean, I meet the criteria and it answers so many questions, right? But because I'm nosy and because I wanted to get my youngest kiddo's full diagnostic info done, basically a connective tissue panel, because getting them in to see Hopkins was going to be a no-go, because shortly after I was seen at Hopkins, virtually by the way, because it was during the pandy, they stopped accepting HEDS patients. That's to my knowledge. I haven't followed up on that, but one of my friends here locally was trying to get in up at the clinic there and they wouldn't take her. Now, I don't even really deal with the clinic up there anymore, though, because once they diagnosed me, they were kind of like, yeah, you've got this, but it's not so bad that, you need to be a regular up here. So then I'm like, okay, cool. Meanwhile, all my doctors that I were seeing were like, yo, you got this thing. We don't want to be your doctor anymore. So that sucked. So anyway, if you didn't know this, and we've mentioned this in previous episodes, there are many subtypes of Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. And the one that I propose that I actually have is aEDS. If you don't know what aEDS is, it's arthrochalasia Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. And like the others, it's a heritable connective tissue disorder that causes congenital bilateral hip dislocation, generalized joint hypermobility, and joint instability. Then it says, and this is from the Ehlers-Danlos Society website, the US one. Then it says, aEDS is an ultra-rare disorder that affects less than 1 in 1 million people. As we know with HEDS, it's rare, but how rare is it, right? Here's why I think I have this flavor of EDS. According to the EDS Society website, these are the signs and symptoms. The major key signs and symptoms being the congenital bilateral hip dislocation, generalized joint hypermobility, and recurrent joint dislocations and subluxations. And then people with aEDS might also have skin hyperextensibility, soft, doughy, velvety skin, muscle hypotonia, which is low muscle tone, guilty, motor developmental delay. Now, I recently came upon my baby books when I was cat sitting for my mom down in South Carolina. And while I did meet many of the milestones at the normal time, actually, I met some of my milestones earlier than my own children did. I distinctly remember my mom telling me that while I crawled, and she documented it, the way that I got around was not by crawling. She said that I rolled places, and I've never been great. I've never been great at doing push-ups. I've never, ever been able to do a pull-up, anything that requires overhead. This nearly impossible for me to do. My hips just go wherever they want. So that wouldn't necessarily be considered a delay, but it was a difference, right? And my kids were the same way. Well, Rob was. The next thing on the list is spinal issues such as scoliosis, kyphoscoliosis, or lordosis. Check. Easy bruising. Check. Atrophic scarring. I have a few funky scars, but not atrophic in the way that they are describing. And then skin fragility. Also, yes. Foot deformities. I'm not going to talk too much about but I don't have clubfoot or flat feet. Like, I have weird toes, is like how I like to describe it. And my feet do naturally want to go in. And if I'm laying down, my hips, they like turn out. So I've always felt loosey-goosey. In fact, I'm actually really enjoying doing this from the reformer here. This is a comfortable way for me to sit because I can lean forward and it makes my back feel good and it takes the pressure off my hips. Anyway, so those are just like the symptoms, right, of aEDS. But moving on to why I think I might have it, when I ordered a sequencing genome kit for my youngest, I also got one for myself and we both took it. One of the reports that sequencing gave me was that they possibly detected aEDS in me. And I was like, oh, that's interesting, because Invitae didn't say anything. So when I was looking up the specific variant and read about it, it definitely has conflicting opinions on whether or not it's a pathogenic variant for aEDS. But I'm sitting here as a person with that variant, and this particular flavor of EDS is dominant, by the way, which means you only need one copy of the mutation in order to possibly be affected. And so I think that this is the flavor of EDS that I have. And I think my son has this one also. And why do I think it matters? Because some people might argue, including me in some cases, that the flavor of EDS that you have doesn't matter, because in most cases the treatment is the same. Given what they said about it being ultra rare, I'm beginning to wonder, is it? I mean, I wonder how many people out there are sitting with this variant of VUS. Variant of unknown. Well, I can't remember what it stands for right now. You know what I have in my brain? Unusual size. I have from The Princess Bride. It's not a variant of unusual size. Uncertain significance. Thank you. Variant of uncertain significance. So I have a copy of a variant of uncertain significance for aEDS, conflicting opinions on whether or not it's pathogenic. Again, I meet a lot of the criteria. Another reason why I wanted to switch gears this week and talk about hip dysplasia is because I'm going to be getting the surgery that I just had on my right hip on my left hip. And I think the reason why it was inevitable is because of hip dysplasia. I've never been officially diagnosed with it, but I have never, sometimes when I wake up in the morning, it would feel like I needed to think Legos or anything that clicks into something else, right? It would just be a little bit off. And so I would lie down on my back, draw my knee up, and just kind of get just right and kind of shimmy. And you would hear a little, and I'd do it on the other side. And when I would stand up, I felt better. And so that to me tells me that there's something a little off with the connection there in my hips. So yeah, that's why I think PT and that wouldn't work to fix my pain related to the tear, because my hip likes to move out of there when it wants to. And with the tear, it was just going to keep putting pressure, right? I think that's what it is. And so people who don't have hip dysplasia, this is a theory, not a doctor, just an armchair, everything, I guess, at this point. That surgery helps my extra stretchy tendons and loosey-goosey joint situation kind of shored that up a little bit. I'll just hit it now.
Oh, and we can steer it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yes, we love her.
So I had my 6 month yesterday.
Yes.
And in the meantime, when was the last time I saw you? Last year? I don't know. Anyway, it's been a bit. January?
I think it was January.
I don't even know what day it is. I've been thinking it's the weekend for like 4 days.
Wouldn't that be nice?
I don't
Well,
know.
it was the weekend. Wait, today's Tuesday.
Is it?
I don't know.
Okay.
I saw you January 30th.
Okay, so
Yes.
it's been almost 2 months.
Yes.
So they're like, go do stuff. And I'm like, I can't. Like within,
Got it.
right.
Yeah.
That, like I had been cleared to fully do everything.
Right.
And so I have been, and just like with the right side, slowly, this left side has been unbearable.
Yeah.
But only not if I sit and rest and do nothing. It's like doing stuff.
Right.
So like the reason why I got the surgery on this was because I couldn't do stuff.
Because we wanted to do stuff.
And so, but the pain is, so I do get it some in the front here, but it's more here.
Okay.
And if you read my imaging,
Yeah.
it talks about I have major issue between L5 and S1s causing mass effect on this. So I do have lumbar issues. But I
Gotcha.
also have a tear in
Gotcha.
my labrum and some other small teeny tears.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess because I didn't look to see if 2 different people analyzed the hips,
Oh, I see.
the verbiage or whatever.
Right.
But like on my right hip MRI, I was like, oh, it's a huge ass tear. And then on the left, I had like more findings. But when they
Smaller?
when they mentioned the tear, it made it seem a little less significant. Like not as, it's like, here's all these things.
Gotcha.
And so when I was talking to Dr. Petrie yesterday, like he came in and he's like, how's this? And I was like, this is, you know, it still clicks here and there. And I don't, the clicks are different. Like they're different sounding.
Mm-hmm.
But then I think we talked and we think that's my IT and maybe not my.
Yeah.
Anyway, so.
Because it was more clicky, less clunky.
Clicky, not clunky, correct.
Yeah, I feel like before it was more clunky.
It was like deeper.
Yeah.
And so, anyway, I was explaining to him, I was like, you know, the tear is smaller, and so, you know, and he was like, if it's hurting you, he's like, the remedy's the same.
Right. Like the report, I mean, and that can be said of any imaging that we ever get, of like, the imaging can say how something is however big, however small, however significant.
Right.
That doesn't always correlate with how we're feeling, what we're able to do. Like you could say the same thing in the opposite way, where people could have like, it happens a lot with the low back, right? Of like this disc herniation and all these things, and people are like, oh my gosh, that sounds so bad.
Well,
But
mine
then
are,
they feel fine, and so it's
well,
like,
see, mine are terrible right now, and I feel awful. And people are like, how are you still moving around? I'm like, because this is my whole life.
right?
I have never not felt some form of discomfort.
Yeah.
So to me, it's like, that's just, I thought that's how bodies were
Yeah.
until someone told me that's not how they were.
Yeah. There's not always this one-to-one correlation of like finding and feeling.
Correct. And so that's why he was like, well, the remedy's the same.
Right. Yeah.
Surgical repair.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm going to tell you, 60% feel better with PT. He's like, kind of feel like you're not in that group.
Right. Kind of feel like we've been through it on the
Yeah.
side.
And that's why I just jumped straight to, because I had done this. I
Yeah.
was like, okay,
And we recovered pretty well from that first one.
correct. Now, here's the other exciting
Oh boy.
addition.
Uh-huh.
On Thursday, I'm going to get some imaging on this bitch.
Uh-huh.
Because this one's not good.
No?
No, it's. I actually almost yesterday taped it to immobilize myself. Because reaching, I can't, like when I reach up, out, I can't sleep on this side, not whatever. I mean, we have issues with some, I have even with my pillow creation.
Fort.
Can't.
Does it subluxe a lot?
I mean, this is, remember when I was doing this?
Uh-huh. I remember.
Yeah. I mean, this,
Right.
just kidding. So I was like, my pain guy was like, let's get some, I've had imaging on, I was like, let's go around the clock.
Right.
And so Petrie does shoulders also.
Right.
And he's like, you know, message me after you get the imaging, I'll look at it, we'll make an appointment, see what's up, and then we'll decide which one we do first. He's like, now, you need to use crutches for your hip. Right. So, but I'm leaning toward, we're not doing anything, should we do something?
Yeah, what do you want to do?
I don't know. Can you rub this?
Yeah.
I don't want to like rub my ass, but could you rub my ass? I mean, I've been seeing you a while.
I was letting you
Process everything.
well talk enough so that I could figure out what our plan of attack was for today.
Yeah. Okay, so I don't really want to work this today. I'm just gonna let this guy hang out.
No, let's work
So I assume on my back.
on your stomach.
That's what I meant.
As you were going on to your stomach.
Right? I know words. Yeah. So my preference would be to do the shoulder first,
Yeah.
just because in the summer I can still sit in my pool with shoulder stitches, but
Oh, this is true. Yeah.
and then in the fall, when I'm more likely to be inside and less going places, I kind of like the same.
Right. Yeah.
If I need the shoulder thing, I guess I'll schedule it for after Rob's graduation.
Ooh, graduation.
Yeah, college graduation.
Wow, that's so exciting.
May 10th. He got into grad school,
Wow.
and then he got a message that there's no funding,
Oh.
so we don't think he's going. We haven't heard from the two other schools yet.
What is he studying?
Meteorology.
That's right.
Yeah, so he got into Florida State, like, and
Oh, wow.
a really good, like, atmospheric hurricane
Yeah.
program.
Okay.
And we were like, and by the way, we don't have funding.
Awesome.
So, and then all of his friends who weren't going to go to grad school right away, but got like offers from the Weather Service or NOAA, those offers have been rescinded.
Oh.
So,
Jeez.
uh-huh.
Great.
Yeah. Oh, it feels good. I was trying to use my right hip brace like reversed inside out. I was like,
Did it work?
I mean, sort of. It's just
Alright.
awkward. I'm
Yeah.
like, you know what? I'm just gonna suck it up and get a left one.
And I think that's why when I had that follow up and talked to the doctor, and he was like, looked at the MRI of my left hip, and he's like, you have a tear, you have these things. I for some reason thought that it wasn't as big of a deal, because the way the report was written, I was given the impression that the tear was smaller. But in the context of what I just learned about hip dysplasia and then what my surgeon told me, the remedy is the same regardless of the size of the tear. If I'm having pain and my hip is loosey-goosey and putting pressure on where the tear is, and you might say, oh, well, just don't stand so much. Well, the problem is when you have like L5 through S1 problems, like sitting hurts. I can't lie down all the time. And the way I really want to lie down is either upside down or on my stomach. And I have not seen any jobs where that's like, you can do that. Can't really do much in those positions. Anyway, so that's why we're pivoting to talking about hip dysplasia. Now, would you like to see all of the different little goodies that I used while I was in pain, rehabbing, and then before and after surgery? So this guy here, this is for your SI joint. And the way it works is you put it on low on your hips and then adjust the pressure. This is nice if you're going to be standing for a while. This one, I would sometimes wear this in conjunction with one of these, which is a back brace or a waist cincher. Or corset, I mean, in general. So these two together were nice. But my favorite, when my right hip was like at its worst, was this thing, which I mentioned briefly. The way this one was, you stand up and put it around your hip here and then around your thigh here, and it gives you support. This is great too. Another thing, all of these are like external bracing things, which are fine. It's just a layer, right? And it can cause overheating, extra sweating, annoying Velcro sounds, which, as you can see, really bother me. So I started switching to my clothing to be supportive. I wear a lot more compression than I used to. And the compression that I wear is corrective in nature. So I didn't really want to love the whole form clothing situation, but after wasting so much time trying to research a more affordable compression corrective clothing option, I realized I was wasting so much time doing that I just was like, let me just try it. So I tried it, I bought it, I love it. So most days, I wear this corrective form bra. And I also have the leggings, which I'm wearing today. And these, after wearing these today, I'm going to make these more of a regular because my hips and back do feel better right now. If you were ever a runner, or if you ever had any type of special running gear, but you quit running like I did, like because running is not something that my body wants me to do anymore. I had these running tights from when I ran my first half marathon. They're by CWX and they're compression and they have support in the knees. This is heat gear. So like in the winter time, I can wear these for support because these leggings I have here aren't very warm. I think they offer and sell some warmer versions of these leggings, but I am trying to curb my shopping right now, just supporting not shopping right now for a variety of reasons. Art school is expensive, yo, even with a big ass scholarship. Having a leg spasm right now. All right. You'll notice I'm sitting on a reformer that my bestie Carrie gifted to me. I love this because gravity hates me. And so this is a way to get some strength building in without putting a lot of pressure on my joints. This is the wheelchair that I purchased after I found out I was getting this hip surgery. And the reason why is because I knew that I was going to be at a conference out of town. Actually, this is when I was going to be at the Ehlers-Danlos conference. And I knew that I was going to need to be getting around, but like walking was going to be a challenge. And I saw this particular type of wheelchair / rollator combo when I was at a concert. I was there with my old rollator, which is right here, and I'll show you that in a minute. But what I like about this one is it's a little heftier. Anyway, it's a little heftier, and it is a wheelchair right now. Feet store inside of there so that you can convert it very quickly to a wheelchair from a rollator, because if you go like this and turn it around this way, now it's a rollator, right? I have it lowered right now I'm much taller. So these raise up pretty high, actually. I'm not going to do it now because my hands aren't. But so it's a rollator that very easily you can just flip this around, have a seat, and then someone can push you. And the wheels are not, maybe they do inflate. My husband said they were plastic, but if you watched the video last week where we did the little tour of me in the neighborhood, like the day after my surgery, where we went around the block, it felt to me like the wheels were maybe flat. This does have a seatbelt, which also, again, if you watched me almost get launched out of the wheelchair, that was fun. So this was super handy. And as I now know, it's going to be handy again. Another thing that is helpful and was helpful before, during, and after the surgery is this right here. This is just what do they call this? Like a dip bar. I have two of them. One of them is here. The other one lives outside by the hot tub, which is another great therapeutic tool that I'm going to probably get in later today. But this was nice. I keep it here actually to kind of remind me not to hip check the end of the reformer here, which has some things on it right now. But because I would run into that all of the time, and I was really, really tired of getting bruised like on my upper thigh. So, but this is also handy for getting up and out of bed. I put this next to my bed. And when I got more mobile, I put one next to the toilet in the bathroom, because we had two. Speaking of the toilet, this is a portable toilet. Right now it has the bowl that drains into the toilet, but it actually has like a chamber pot, so you can put it in a room that you don't have to have it over a toilet. But in addition to using this to get me a little bit higher up on the toilet so that it was easier for me to use the restroom on my own and get up and out of there, this was actually a nice shower stool. because the shower stool that I was using previously was a little lower and different. And this afforded me different options and better options in the shower for me personally. And I just liked the flexibility of it. And now I'm going to be using it again, obviously for after the surgery, but I'm going to be keeping it outside by the hot tub for when I have to inevitably go to the bathroom while I'm chilling in the hot tub and I don't want to have to go all the way inside. So that's a problem solver right there. This is my OG rollator. Her name's Rhonda, which reminds me I need to name this one. I haven't yet. But this is Rhonda. She's the OG rollator and she's lowered too. She doesn't go as high as this one does. That's the one complaint I have about some of these devices is that I have really long arms. I'm leggy and my arms are long. If you want to see examples of this, a lot of my different features, my skin features that meet Beighton criteria, go to season 1, episode 5. I think it's episode 5. Luna and I both share images and videos of our actual bodies that meet the criteria. Anyway, I find that even though my hands can reach when it's on the highest setting for the tall person, it still hurts my back because I have a very short torso. And so someone who is more proportional, who has a regular sized torso and isn't, all legs, I have to bend over a little bit to make that comfortable for me to walk. And so I think that's why I T-Rex also, because having them down it's like a weird center of balance. Who knows what it is, but that's always been my biggest complaint with some of these things. Is they don't consider that some people are not as proportional. Now, I probably could have found a specialized one for, I don't know how much money, but this one was pretty affordable. I think I got it from, an evil internet retailer for about $80, I think, maybe a little less. And this one was about $220, I believe. One more thing I want to show you related to these. The hip is this guy right here. This is a specialized leg hip. I mean, you could probably customize it to work anywhere. But it's marketed as a heating pad for your hip, either side. And what's nice about it is it can go all the way, wrap it around, right? Either leg, you don't have to it's not specific. You have to buy one for the other. This hip brace that I mentioned earlier is specifically designed for your right hip. Now, in a pinch, I flipped it inside out and used it on my left hip. And because I'm bendy, I could attach it and stuff in the back. But if you don't have the ability to put your hands behind you and reach and adjust that thing, you're going to have to suck it up and buy a specific one for your left hip. You could also just keep wearing the compression. There are some taping options, but in all of my rock tape inserts, I didn't see any specialized hip taping. But I did find a video and we did try doing some hip taping before I had my first surgery. I have a walking stick. I think my cane is in my youngest's car because they were using it last. Those are all devices you're going to want to have on hand. I still have my crutches from the first surgery, so I'm going to be using those again. I do not like crutches. As soon as I could, they told me I didn't have to use them. I was not. Now they didn't want me limping and putting too much pressure. They wanted me to be more even keeled. So they did recommend if I was going to be doing a lot of walking to use the crutches. But at that point, because of the way my shoulders are, and actually holding this camera right now is not good for me. So I'm going to stop in a second. But they were like, oh, I just lost my train of thought. Alice, what was I talking about? Do you remember? She doesn't remember. Okay. Anyway, I'm pretty sure I paid for those puppies. I'm not going to let them send me home with some. I'll be bringing some with me. Okay. I am going to go wrap this up.
Cool. Thank you for that was a high five.
That was a primo high five. You're not even, like, your hand is off to the side.
It was really an excellent high five.
It never ever happens to me.
It was really good. I'm really impressed.